The good, bad, and the ugly is in chapter 3. I like Clint Eastwood, and one of my favorite movies is called The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. So when I got into real estate, I looked at, when I was showing homes to buyers, I thought the same way. And I would even tell them that. The good, bad, and the ugly strategy is basically pointing out all the positives and don't be afraid to point out the negatives as well. When you point out the negatives about a property, it doesn't mean that you're poo-pooing the house. It's just looking out for their best interest. And by doing this, I find that you build trust. When you build trust with people, they're gonna have a great experience, and so will you. And what I mean when I talk about building trust is, what exactly am I talking about? When I am walking on a property, I'm always talking in resale. You make your money when you buy your house, not when you sell it. So things to look out for is when you're walking a property is maybe it backs a busy street, or there's power lines. Maybe there's a high school down the street, and you know what? We better make sure that they're not allowed to park on the street, because sometimes that's insane with the amount of cars that would be there. Is there a church nearby? Nothing wrong with churches, but also there's a lot of activities in the evenings and also on the weekends where there could be a lot of traffic. Also, this one might sound funny, but is there a strip club around the corner? That actually will affect your home value when you go to sell it, if you know about that information. And what do other homes look like on the street? Like, I'm not just worried about this street. After I leave, I'm also gonna drive around the street behind to make sure that the neighbors are keeping the home nice so that the neighborhood values stay up. Another thing to really think about too, and I get asked this a lot, should I buy in an HOA or should I not buy in an HOA? What I like to point out is, if you're not in an HOA, and I literally have a photo of this, it's funny, but I've seen purple houses, I've seen blue houses, I've seen yellow houses, and when you live in an HOA, not always does every neighbor care, because there's nobody really policing them as far as picking up their weed. Maybe their cars are on blocks in the front yard, or the guy's a mechanic and he likes to work on his cars. That's just something to consider when you're living in a non-HOA, is what is that resale value going to be like for you? When you live in an HOA, sometimes they're a little bit persnickety. And what I mean by that is, we actually had this circumstance where Dave's tire was literally half on the landscape and half on the driveway. And we get a notice from the homeowners association that we're not allowed to park on our landscaping. And here's a $50 fine, by the way. That's a little extreme. What I do like about the homeowners associations is that they are going to restrict the color palette. They are going to restrict people parking on the street, and you know how long you can leave your trash can out. And also, looking at the good, bad, and the ugly, it's ask them what is most important to them about that house and area. And sometimes they'll say, well, I just want to talk about crime. What's the crime statistics? What does that look like? And is this a safe neighborhood? According to our license, we're not allowed to steer people. We're not allowed to do any of that. But what we can do as real estate professionals is give them the buyer's advisory. In your state, maybe it's called something different, but the buyer advisory here in Arizona will actually give them all the website links of the places that they need to go to feel good about crime statistics. I also tell them to talk to neighbors. I'm not shy. If I see a neighbor outside, I'll pull the car over and say, hey, Joe and Sally are really interested in buying the house over here, and is there a little bit you could tell us about the neighborhood and the community? Trust me, they are willing to share everything. Sometimes it's maybe cost the sale on that property, or they're all in because of what the neighbor had to say. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure that the buyer is happy with the property and that they feel good about it. The next thing is, I tell the clients to do this as well, especially if you're going to be closer down to where the university is maybe you want to drive by that property at night. Maybe go by Friday night around 10, 11 o'clock, see what the noise level is. And also, they can always go to the local grocery store and they can see who their neighbors are. Most of the time, that's where everybody's going to shop. You can be able to walk through and feel comfortable about your surroundings.